Oh, hot, hot, hot. Here, San Francisco, California, US. The heat wave started yesterday, but not here. It was quite comfortable here yesterday. Very summer-like, 70s, 80s. Just beautiful. Another miserable California day. But today, we're starting to see a tropical system coming up from the south. Well, when those happen, they're the remnants of a hurricane, which this one is, and it carries a huge amount of humidity with it. We've already got the heat because it's not here yet, so the heat is set in, and as soon as that gets overhead, even before I get back, it'll be overhead, and that humidity blanket will be over us, and the torturous torture begins. An 8-day straight heat wave into the hundreds every day. All right, well, we're not going to think about that because that's, I don't do well in heat waves. But my back isn't hurting, my shoulders aren't hurting, nothing else is hurting. I should jump up and click my heels and talk about laxatives and things, huh? We're not here to talk about laxatives. Heat waves are expected to occur often with sharper intensity and for longer periods of time. Here in the US, the EPA rescinds methane regulations for oil and gas production. That is ridiculous. How can you do that? So now oil and gas companies don't need to monitor whether they've got methane leaks or not. Trump doesn't give a fuck about methane leaks. I mean, who cares about methane, right? Nobody here cares about methane. I mean, methane is only 25 times more impactful than CO2 gas. So 25 times a better blanket to keep the heat in than CO2. It just doesn't last as long, and then it turns into CO2 and water vapor after several years. But so much methane is being released that of course the methane builds up, and it's because it's a gas, it wants to be equal all over the planet, and it will just cause hell all over the planet, everywhere. I mean, but a new study has found that new infectious diseases are spilling over from animal to human. Well, that's been going on for a while. It's just that information has been kept quiet to all of us. Dr. Hana Akselrod is an infectious disease specialist. He says to stop eating meat, to stop this from transferring. It's happening more and more. What are some of the diseases that have already jumped from animal to human that are now infecting humans to this very day? COVID-19, Ebola, HIV, MARS, and Lyme disease. Now, why haven't we put vaccines out for any of these? They're just as important. People die from all this, maybe not as much, but how much is a life worth? You need millions to die before you bother with a vaccine? So 6 out of every 10 diseases and infections are transmitted by animals to humans. 6 out of 10. So quiet. We're still in lockdown here in San Francisco. So here's a word you may not have seen, zoonotics. That's the word they call diseases that come from animal into human. There's so much that they had to make a word up for it. That's terrible, when all we have to do is stop eating meat and go into the vegetarian mode. Learn how to eat vegetarian, and you'll be fine. You'll have all the protein, all the amino acids, everything you need. I'm still going, but I tell you, days where you don't have any pain is fantastic. I feel like jumping up and down, and I know if I do that, you know what would happen. My back would go out. All right, last night, apparently, well, over the last weekend, we had a huge amount of break-ins, over 57 in just a few blocks from here, from where I live, and bicyclists. And they stole 57 cars and broke into hundreds all up and down the street at night. Then, last night, just right over here in the hospital, local hospital here, that's one of the best to cover the COVID, some person ran into the hospital lobby and was killed by somebody. That person left, and a nurse came running over to help the person that was killed and couldn't revive him. That's too bad. So, because that happened in this area, we're being warned to watch out for a murder. So it's very quiet and spooky, and you never know who's around the next tree, huh? So with that information, I appreciate all the comments on the last videos, the ups and downs, and the new subscribers.